In this lesson, we're going to be taking a look at the LFO options available to us on the Syntakt. Each of the 12 tracks has 2 LFO pages. So you can see they've got LFO 1, press it again, got LFO 2. Each of them 12 tracks has 2 different LFOs, which can be sent to 2 different destinations to modulate specific parameters. Also, we have 2 LFOs available on the effects track, and those can be used to modulate the effects track parameters. So for this demonstration, to make it clear, what we're going to do is use on track 9, which is an analog track, we're going to use SY dual VCO, and I've just got one note which sounds like this, and also a 4/4 kick. Now the 4/4 kick is going to be used so that we can hear different timing changes on the LFO, including triplets and dotted as well. So let's go to track 9, let's go to the filter, and just bring the cutoff down to halfway, add a bit of resonance, and this is going to be what we're going to modulate, the filter cutoff, which will clearly give you a representation of what the LFO is doing. So let's put it back in the middle. Let's go to the LFO page and select our first destination. So we're just going to use one LFO for now, and maybe I'll use 2 at the end of this lesson. So what I'm going to do is just go down and select filter frequency. You can also select any of these destinations. So you can see there we've got synth destinations, we've got filter destinations, and amp destinations. So we're going to go for filter frequency, and then we're going to hit play. And as this is playing, I'll start to bring up the depth amount. So you can see with the low depth amount, the LFO is just moving around this area. And as we start to bring this up, it increases the range of the LFO. And if we go the opposite way into the negative, you can see as soon as we pass that center point, it flips the LFO. So on the right hand side, you can see if up is right on the cutoff and down is left, you can see it starts in the middle, it goes to the right, comes down back to the center again, and goes to the left. If we flip it and go the left way, or the negative, you can see it goes down first, then up. Also, this LFO is free running. So what I mean by that is, when I press play, or when this first trig triggers, it doesn't restart the LFO. The LFO is just constantly moving. Even now with stop enabled, the LFO is still going. And when I hit play, there's no telling where the LFO is going to start. And this is very important. If we change the shape to a saw down, I was quite lucky there because I managed to get it pretty much on grid. But let me change the BPM multiplier and the speed. I'll come back to these in a second. And let's put the kick in. I was pretty lucky again. I pretty much got it on time. See, now it's over here. Now it's there. The start time. So what I'm going to do is just go to the mode, and I'm going to change this to the right and put it on trig mode. So that's the first introduction to the different modes. We've got free mode. I normally put it on trig mode. What trig mode does is when a trigger hits, it's going to restart this LFO. So if I went like this, it's restarting that LFO every time a trigger hits. Very useful to get it in time with the groove on the Syntakt or the drums that you've got going on. So what I'm going to do now is show you the different speed options available. So we've already played around with these just then, so I'm going to put this on 32 to start with and show you the multiplier. So if we bring the multiplier to 8, you can see with a speed of 32, it's restarting, or it's doing the full cycle every 8 steps. But if we bring it up, you can see we've got quarters now. So this is just multiplying it. So that's 8ths. And then we've got 16ths, so 1 on every trig pretty much. 2 on every trig. And we can go up into FM ranges. So if you send this to the tuning, doesn't sound great, but let's bring the depth mount up. There we go. Still doesn't sound great, but you can get into those frequency modulation ranges. So we're actually limited here because we're on BPM. So let me just go back. I'm obviously getting a little bit ahead of myself here. But on BPM, let's just put this on 32. Bring that down a little bit. Put that on 32. So now we're kind of on beat again. The BPM, this is linked to the BPM obviously, so it's synced to the BPM. So when we change it like this, you can hear it speeding up or slowing down depending on the BPM. But if you want to do FM type stuff, we've also got this other option available, which is unlinked. So we've got these multipliers that are unlinked here, and that will allow you to get into higher ranges. Sometimes you can find sweet spots where you get that FM kind of tone. Takes a bit of playing around with, obviously. And then we're going to come back to the filter frequency again. Put this back into BPM mode, stick that back on 32, and now we're going to talk about the speed. So the speed, even though this is on grid, at the moment I can deviate from that a little bit just by pushing the speed up. If you go all the way to the top, then we're basically doubling it. So 32, almost 64 there, and you come down to 16, you're halving it. So the way that I like to do this is I like to leave it on 32 if I want those on-grid notes, so like your 16ths, your 8ths, your quarters. If I want a dotted result, then I'll go to 12, and then I'll use the multiplier to speed it up or slow it down. So that's 16th dotted. If I want a triplet, then I'll go to 24. Just come down again. So that's triplets now. And the way that I get to them quite quickly is just to hold function and go up and down like this. So we've got 32, 24, and then obviously 16, but then if we go down again, we get to 12, and then just use the multiplier. There's been a lot of confusion online. I've seen a lot of like tables that have every single combination on, apart from triplets and dotted, which is just really silly. Even in the manual itself, you've got a grid which shows you the different combinations of these, but it says nothing about triplets or dotted, which is just really silly, and I don't know why it's not being talked about. There's a super simple way of doing it. Like I just said, 32 for your on-grid notes, go to 12 if you want your triplets, your dotted, and then go to 24 if you want your triplets, and then just use the multiplier. Really simple, really easy way of doing it. If you want some off-kilter stuff, obviously you can go in between, or you can just knock it off a little bit. So let's say if we was on dotted, let's just bring that up. And you can kind of change the groove a little bit just by it just makes it a little bit more swung. So that's something else you can do as well. Also, once you've kind of got it set up like that, don't forget you've got the retrig, so which it doesn't really work with dotted, obviously. Let me go to triplet, see if I can get it working with that. I mean, not really, it doesn't sound great, but obviously on that's pretty cool. So you can re-trigger the LFO on different steps there, rather than just having a really simple LFO pattern. So that gives you a more complex LFO if you do that. Let's talk about the, in fact, what we'll do first is we'll just talk about the fade. So with the fade, if I go to the right, it brings it down as it goes through like this. So it brings the depth amount down. It's kind of like it starts off where it is now, and then as it goes through the trigs, it starts to decrease the depth amount like this to the bottom. if I bring that back up, yeah, you can really clearly hear it now. I've boosted it a bit more. And then with the fade going the other way, obviously, the more you add, the longer it takes for that to come up. But if I re-trigger it, it will re-trigger that as well, so. So you can have a lot of fun with that, with re-triggering it, using the fades as well. Don't forget, all of these can be trig locked as well, so if you wanted to, you could take the fade off for these ones. And don't forget, any of these parameters can be trig locked as well, so if I wanted to, so we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but we'll come to that in a second. We'll have a bit of fun with that, and I'll parameter lock all of the different parameters, and we'll come up with like a really crazy LFO sequence. Are you enjoying this Syntakt tutorial, and would you like to develop your Syntakt skills even further? Well, I do have a 14-hour Syntakt Mastery course available, which is split into 4 parts. The first part, the introductory course, is absolutely free, and you can sign up to that by clicking on the link in the video description below. And then following on from that, we go through beginner, advanced, and expert, which will take you through basic sound design right through to the advanced features and loads of tips and tricks which often people don't really think about. And I'll be pushing the Syntakt to its absolute limits. I will say though, the introductory course is super basic. It's basically there just to give you an idea of how courses are structured in the learning portal, and also to give you an idea of my teaching style, which you are already familiar with from watching my YouTube videos. So don't wait, click on the link in the video description below, sign up, and I'll also send you some offers as well to get discount on the Syntakt Mastery courses. So my name is James Orvis, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this tutorial. So next I want to talk about the shapes. Let's keep it basic for now. So I'm going to bring the fade back up. That's when we're doing this course, sometimes I just get a little bit ahead and I want to start doing some mental stuff on the sequencer, but I've got to keep it basic to start with. Right, so let's talk about the waves next, and then we'll talk about the modes after that. So waves, pretty self-explanatory. I don't really need to go through them, but I will do just in case. So you can see here, we've got a tri, which is, let's bring that down, all the way up, all the way down, all the way up, all the way down. No kind of arcing bend as with a sine wave. So that's like a softer kind of LFO. And then, I mean, that is a triangle LFO. Then you've got a sine wave, and then you've got a square, which is on, off, on, off. And then we've got a saw down. And we've got exponential, which is kind of like a saw down, but it's much faster. It comes down quicker. It's kind of like using a really fast decay. And we've got this ramp, which is interesting. It goes up, and then for the second half of the cycle, it just turns itself off and stays in the middle, which is quite cool. And then before we get to random, actually, I'll show you random now quickly. So random, let's just slow it down a bit. Something I use a lot. If you've done my Hydrosynth course, then we go through sample and hold a lot. Which sounds great. It's got that modular feel to it. It's especially good when you've got the trigger on, so it's on grid, on beat, on free. Every time you start, it's going to be a little bit different, might be slightly off grid. So yeah, we're going to leave it on trig for now. And now we've gone for them, let's just go back again and show you what these are like if we go into the negative. So pretty simple for these ones, but it's when you get to, say, the saw, got the stabby saw, but if you go the other way, it's like you're using the attack on the filter, like bringing it up like that. Same with exponential. Kind of got a Daft Punk vibe to that, hasn't it? But yeah, if you go left on that, it's the same. And the ramp. So that's pretty much it for them. But things change quite a bit as well once we start to go into the different modes. So what I'm going to do is just go back to the saw and then go through the rest of the modes now. So obviously we've done free, we've done trig, and then we've got hold, which is really interesting actually. So with hold, it's kind of like a sample and hold, but you can use any waveform. So what it'll do is it'll go through the waveform cycle, but when the trigger hits, it's running in free mode as well. Whenever the trigger hits, it will catch wherever it is. So let's just put in a random trig pattern. So what you can do is you can create a sample and hold or a random vibe. So what I mean by that is, if we go back to the random, let's go to the back. So this vibe, you know, where it's jumping up and down with the filter, you can get that vibe, but you can get something that's a bit more controlled. So let's go back again to the hold function and let's put it on the saw down to start with. And let's put in a pattern again. And obviously changing the speed is going to change how fast this goes round, which is also going to change where it lands on each of the trigs. Let's change it. Really good way of coming up with something quite quickly, like a pattern. Because the way that I would normally do this is I would either go into the trigs and do this, which I've done on the previous modules, which is just as cool. Or what I would also do, which is my favourite way of doing it, is record, play, and then that's the way I would normally do it. So what we're going to do is just put in a pattern again, go back to the LFO, bring that up. And you come up with something really, really quick just using a very basic oscillator with filter and using the LFO to get some movement going. We can also change the waveform, which will drastically change it as well. Kind of got a Daniel Avery type vibe, drone logic, that kind of thing. That's kind of sounds like drone logic a bit. Oh, it did do. That's cool. I really like that. Getting carried away again, aren't I? So yeah, I mean, just instant vibes there. I mean, how easy was that? You could just come up with something really, really simple and quick. Not simple, because it sounds quite complex. That's the beauty of it. It's really simple and easy to set up, but it sounds complex. And don't forget, like I said before, again, getting ahead of myself, these can be trig locked. And these shapes as well. Or we could even go record quantize. Could even change the mode as well, so let's do that just for a laugh. Getting a bit out of hand now, but so you can turn a really simple LFO page into something that's super, super complex. And I think this is something that I often overlook myself, as well as other people tend to just, like, you know, trig lock a few bits, but then we forget about the LFO page. I don't use it as often as I should really on my Electron devices because, you know, trig locking is very powerful. But with the LFO, you get something that's a bit more kind of, it's like moving. It's not just like a trig lock, stepped lock that you do. It's got a bit more of a groove, and it kind of bends, especially with something like a sine wave. So yeah, we can do that as well. Let me just reset this, reset that again. Let's just put in something simple again, because we're going to go through the different modes. Let's go back to a saw down, multiplier, put it on 32. Let's choose the frequency again. Let's get rid of these effects, even though they sound good. So yeah, we've got the hold mode, which we just went through. Really cool mode. One that I haven't previously used that often, going back to what I was just saying then. I often just stick it straight on this and, you know, I'll dial something in, but it's really, really cool using that. Or I'll use like random with the shape. So the other one that we've got is 1. So this one's pretty cool. Even if I change the speed of this to like 32, it'll only do 1 and then it'll stop. Again, you can get some pretty interesting stuff with trigs. And you'll notice that it sounds a bit weird because what it's doing is it's going up and then it's coming down past where this cutoff is. It's going up and down and then back to center again. So we can get rid of that effect by just going over to the next mode, which is the same mode, but it's half. So you can see it gets rid of the bottom portion. And now this sounds less weird because it's resetting to center instead of going low first. So it's kind of like using filter envelope. I'll bring that down actually. There we go. So you can hear that one going down more. We could trig lock them as well, so I mean you could. I think what we'll do now is we'll finish off by getting rid of that and creating a pattern on the filter using the LFO. And then what I'll also do is make use of the second LFO. I'll either send that also to the filter cutoff to get some weird rhythms going, or I can send that to somewhere else, like a different parameter, maybe on the synth page or something. So what I'm going to do now is start by using what we just talked about a minute ago, because I really liked that. So we're going to use the hold function. And then what I'm going to do is just, you know, put in some random trigs. We'll go for that. That sounds cool to me. Should we put something weird in there maybe? That's really changed it up now though, because this is going to change every time I restart the sequencer. So let's just go. Let's go for that. What I could actually do is change that one so it's on beat, and then it doesn't matter when I start, it's always going to be on time. So let's go for that. And maybe I could change some of these up just to get weird. Let's get weird with it. So that's pretty interesting. That one's always going to be random now. It's always going to change. That's cool. I like that. Just keeps developing. Let's go to the delay. Yeah, let's put that back on dotted. little bit of that with short attack, just to give it a bit of attack at the beginning. And what I might do now is just kind of work out what we're going to do with LFO 2, because what we could do is we could also send it, which I do this quite often with synths as well, to get some more weirdness out of it. We could send that to the frequency also. But I don't think I want to do that. I think what I want to do is maybe modulate something on the synth page. So what else have we got in here? We could go for... Let's just see what happens. I'll probably go for like some on the synth page. It's a bit weird. I kind of like that. That's pretty cool. So what I've done is I've added a bit of randomness to the synth config, and I can turn it right up and it'll get a bit wacky. And what it's doing is just changing the synth configuration. It's a little bit weird. What we can also do is just look through the different options available. Maybe we could do the filter envelope, or the filter envelope decay time. That's cool. So it's changing that. I've always got this up, and then sometimes it's opening it up a bit more. Just go back to this set. I've messed it up. So let's go back to page 1. What I've done is I've changed this. That needs to be on filter frequency. Go back to this one. This one's filter decay. That's pretty cool. And even though we've got an LFO kind of moving this, you can always still move the middle point of the cutoff around a little bit and perform with it. I'll turn that down. Maybe one more thing we'll do actually is just go back to page 1, bring that down. Go to page 2, reset it, and just put a slow moving sine wave on the filter as well. So filter 1 frequency, bring the speed down a bit, and just put this on like a random number. And that's like moving slowly now. Let's bring it down a bit more. And we've just got a bit more movement going through now. So without it, it kind of stays stagnant, even though it's got quite a lot of movement. But if you bring this up, just got a bit more movement going on there. So I think that's pretty much it really for the LFOs. There's so much to do with these, and I'll probably cover them in the expert part of this course. We'll deep dive into it even more and come up with some cool tricks.